You have tuned in to Be the Voice podcast, where we are using our voices to shatter the silence by promoting healing from past trauma, aiming for victorious living, and uplifting the work to improve our communities. It's time to be informed, encouraged, and empowered with your favorite host, Dee Marie. Well, hello and welcome to Be the Voice podcast. This is your host, Dee Marie, and we are in with another episode. This month is February, which we all know is Valentine's Day, falls in this month. So this is Love Month. So this month we have been doing a series called Relationship Status. And today we have another amazing episode. And today we're going to talk about being married and 22 years and counting. So I can't wait to bring the guest on. But before we get started, I want you to know that Be the Voice podcast is actually brought to you by Voices Magazine. Voices Magazine is an online magazine that is tailored to the voices of sexual abuse survivors. And the magazine includes the featured story of a survivor and how they are healing and overcome and their entire journey. And then we have the Counselor's Corner, Healthy Living, Tips and Safety, and we spotlight organizations that are in the community actually doing the work to improve our families. And then also we have Fashion and Beauty, because what we do know is that once you heal from the inside, you'll begin to heal on the outside as well. And even though the magazine is tailored to survivors of sexual abuse, anyone can read it. So don't feel like because you're not a survivor that you can't read the magazine. You absolutely can, because these stories are to inform, encourage, and empower, and they will actually bring not only healing to survivors, but encouragement and healing to everyone else, because we all have issues that we overcome. And these are just people that have past trauma, but they are actually using their stories to help other survivors and just anyone that is actually overcoming any type of trauma in their lives. And also, it's interesting because I know people know me as an advocate of sexual abuse. And I'm sure the question has been, okay, you're an advocate. Why are you talking about relationships? Well, one thing that I do know is that whenever you go through any type of trauma, when you want to get into relationships, you have to heal. Now, I am a survivor and I am the voice of sexual abuse survivors. So I understand that I had to go through my own healing journey, and I just want to encourage everyone else to go through theirs as well. And as we've been talking through these past few weeks, like first we had singles, and then we had newlyweds, and today we have a couple that has been married for over 20 years. And what I have found is that the key to all of that is healing. So I really want to promote healing, your healing journey, aiming to live victoriously, and just striving to be the best that you can be. Okay. So without further ado, I want to bring in one of my favorite couples. And even though they don't know this, I have said this so many times, they are one of my favorite couples. And I want to bring them in, and that is Tim and hold on one second. Let me get my guests on here. All right. Hi, Tim and Jen. We have Tim and Jennifer McClure. How are you guys?
We are good. How are you?
I am good. I am good. I am so glad to have you guys on the podcast. So little do you know that I had you guys scheduled like months ago.
Even though we didn't get the notice months ago.
But that's okay, because I had you guys here. And the reason why I chose you two, and also like Kira and Cedric, is because, you know, we can look at couples from afar, you know, like celebrities and people that are out here that are in the limelight, but we don't know them, you know. And I personally know you guys, and I know your morals, I know your values, I know that you guys are just excellent people. And I wanted to bring on people that I know that they are living what they say. And you two, I was in your wedding, 22 years ago. And you guys are still going strong. And I just am so glad to have you here on the podcast. And you may not know it, but I tell a lot of people, all my friends, Tim and Jen are one of my favorite couples. And I say that because I know you guys, you know, and me and Jen been friends forever. And me and Tim went to high school together. But I'll never forget, and this is a funny story, and I'm sure you guys, you might remember once I tell you, when I was over your house and I came downstairs, Tim, you were on the computer, Jen was like cooking some breakfast or something. Now, Tim, I don't know what you were doing over there. In my mind, you were taking care of the household bills, and you know, you could have been playing solitaire. I don't know what you were doing, but in my mind, you were taking care of the things in the house, and Jen was just, you know, she was just cooking breakfast and doing everything. And I was like, I need this setup. I was like, I need this set up. But I admire you guys and have for a very, very long time. So I'm really happy to have you here on the podcast. So I want you guys to introduce yourselves. Just tell us a little about who you are individually and then who you are together.
All right. You want to start?
I am Jennifer.
And project a little bit, Jen.
Okay. I am Jennifer, Jenny to most of my family.
She's Jennifer to me exclusively.
That's a whole
nother episode.
You
but.
know.
Okay.
They call you. No. And anyway, so I mean, grew up in St. Louis. Grew up, you know, born and raised in the church house. My dad was a pastor. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I have 6 brothers and sisters, or there's 6 of us all together. You know, grew up in St. Louis. Went to McClure North High School. Shout out Stars.
For my kids with
right. But anyway, you know, went off to college. You know, did the typical, I guess, dating thing through high school and college. Typical, not so typical. Met you. Somewhere in there, I have worked prior to getting married, both while in college and then I finished up, and then when we first got married as well. Then after getting married, you know, that was a different part of my journey. As it just kind of added to who I was.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can get all in depth, or I can just keep it on the surface.
That's fine. We're gonna get more into
yes.
you as a mom and all of that. Yeah.
So Tim McClure, Dee Dee, you've known me for years because we went to high school together. But born and raised Hazelwood East. Shout out Spartans.
Class of '92.
Right. Don't be jelly, Jennifer. Don't be jelly.
Right.
But I'm also one of 6 children. Born and raised in St. Louis. Grew up in North County. Was pretty active in school, as you may know, and remember, Dee Dee. Graduated from Morehouse College, a proud Morehouse alum, class of 1996, the Olympic class of 1996 to be exact. Just had to throw that out there. Sorry, you know, but not sorry. And for the last 27 years, I've been in retail as a retail executive. First started at May Department Stores. Transitioned to Macy's once Macy's acquired May Company, worked for Tailored Brands, and now I currently work for Claire's, based in Chicago. And I've been here now for 9 years as the Senior Vice President of buying for Claire's. So that's a little bit about me. I'm sure we'll talk more about the kids and us and all that.
Yeah.
But that's me.
All right. So who do you guys see? Who are you as a couple together?
You're gonna answer. I have an answer. I mean, I would say we are our best versions of ourselves as a couple.
Awesome.
There are qualities that Jennifer has that I've always admired, that I want to be more like, but that's just not how I'm wired. Like
right.
she has a level of compassion. She has the ability to see people and see them where they are. And I'm different. Like, I think that that's valuable.
Yeah.
But I'm so focused on how we get things done, when we get things done, performance, all of those things that at times I can work with like blinders on. because I'm so focused on the task at hand and the goals of which I've set. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for seeing other people.
Right.
And having compassion for others, if I'm being honest. But those are valuable traits, and Jennifer has that.
Yes, yeah, I would agree with you on that. I always make a joke, Jen's so helpful, but she is, and that's Jen's heart.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most genuine, sincere people that I know, because Jen has a servant's heart. She does. Yeah,
Yes.
that is totally who she is,
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so one question I have. So unfortunately, like in today's age, I mean, obviously we don't see relationships last but a hot second, they don't last long at all. And here you guys are both, in your late 40s, we're hitting 50 soon. But you guys made it, and you got married young. How did you guys make it to 22 years of marriage? I'm sure that's a loaded question.
It is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know what? I think that the idea of marriage is like, I feel like people get so enamored with the idea of a wedding first.
Yes.
Like, and I want all the, say yes to the dress moments and all that kind of stuff. And the idea of marriage and saying that you are with somebody. But I think part of it is that at the point that we first met, we weren't looking for each other, because we met when we were kids. So that's the first part. So I think meeting so long ago enabled us. And I think even when we re-met later in life, it was in a space where we weren't looking for someone. We were content in working on whatever it was that God had in front of us at the moment, individually.
Well, and just to add a point of clarity to that, because that's absolutely true. But we both desired to be in relationship.
Yes.
Okay.
We had both leading up to us becoming a couple. We both were looking for relationships, and if I'm being honest, kind of doing it our own way.
Right.
And not finding much success.
Yes.
And we both individually, because again, we weren't even a couple, had come to a point where we said, you know what, God, if a relationship is for us at this moment, or for me at this moment, you will provide that. But I'm going to stop trying to orchestrate
and do things in my own power.
And so that's how we came into this. So Jennifer's right. We weren't looking for a relationship because we had both just
turned it over to God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're at peace with that decision. Like, God does not need our help. If we could just kind of get that part sunk in, he doesn't need our help in figuring things out. So I think that was a huge part. So that enabled us to say, to not have date face on, first of all.
Right.
We talked about later, but it just enabled us to be ourselves around each other, to be around each other's families, and not even think about, oh, this is my potential mate, or anything, or this is mate material, none of that kind of stuff. It was just like, what's up? And I think that friendship portion is a huge part of the foundation of our marriage. Is that
so? Now, okay, I know you guys said that you guys were like, okay, God, we're going to turn this over to you. Was that something you guys talked about together, or, oh, wow. So individually, you both were at a point like, okay, God, I'm tired of messing up relationships. This is going to be you doing this.
Yeah.
Yes. I think, and I think for people that needs to be your first relationship, is between you and the Lord. And when you are able to have that, where you trust God and you're like, okay, whatever you say, Lord, and then you just focus on whatever's in front of you, the work, right? Day to day. Like, I had a job, I was trying to finish school. I was, there were things that were in front of me that it was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do every day. We have enough to do every day.
Right.
Without interfering with God's plan for every other aspect of our lives. So I think that was just very important. I was a Christian, and then not just I'm a Christian, but I finally, as a Christian, said, Lord, take control.
Right.
Mm,
And
Yeah.
how old were you guys at that moment?
22.
Yeah, 22.
Oh wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Isn't that something? Like at
I know.
22, and I look at my kids, no way they come talking. I be like, you don't get out of here.
But you know what?
But
I don't
how
know about it either.
but
No.
how you matured, because I mean, I got married at 22, but it was a disaster,
Mhm.
but I wasn't looking at it as, like, okay, God, I want you. I didn't put God anywhere in that relationship, which
Mhm.
is, like you said, Jen, you have to have that first before you get into any other relationship. I mean, that's key.
Mhm.
And I do remember, well, I want to jump ahead. You guys can kind of so I was going to talk about your wedding day because I remember something your pastor said, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But when you guys started dating, and I remember, I mean, I wasn't around a lot, excuse me, but I do remember you guys dating. But what I remember is one day I saw you guys at the store and you guys were just laughing, and I'm like, they are just like the perfect couple.
Mhm. Well,
But
we I would say we genuinely like each other's company.
Yeah.
Like
that's good.
I like her.
Right.
I mean, I love her because
Yeah.
she's my wife,
Right.
but I like her a lot. Like we are best friends.
Yeah.
And that really started at the very beginning of our relationship. I think
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
what, again, Jennifer mentioned it earlier, like friendship really is the foundation because, so much is fleeting. Like, I mean, the fact that we've been married over 22 years now, like the fact that it's moved and gone so fast, like, you change, you gain a
Yeah.
little weight, you get a
Yeah.
little sore, you get a little forgetful, but what has never changed is our friendship. Like we have always remained friends. And when I have downtime or, when I'm, I don't have, this major to-do list, which I'm quite a bit of a doer. But when I give myself opportunities to not do anything, I want to be with her.
That's awesome.
So that is, I mean, and I would think that my wife would say the same thing.
But I do. I think we
yeah.
both like enjoy like each other's company. Like if there's something new, like, or if there's something going on, he's the first person I want to talk to about it.
Right.
Like if I'm like, if you're excited about something, if you're sad about something, he's the first person I want to talk to. When he is coming home from work, I'm like, oh, good. Like my friend is coming over. Let me open a bottle of wine.
my man is coming home.
But I mean, I don't know how people can ever consider being with someone if you can't be around them and
that's good,
Jen. Be yourself. I couldn't imagine like, okay, like to your point, like you're like, okay, over the years that weight can go woo, woo, woo. I mean, I've been on a yo-yo, so it's not appearance based then. It's
right.
not just okay, you've been a stay-at-home mom for how much you bringing in, it's not financially based,
right?
And all those things, you can encourage one another in your marriage about it, but that's not the basis of it. Had we been great friends and he wasn't a believer, that wouldn't have been for me.
Right.
He would have just stayed a great friend. But to be a believer and to be somebody that I can hang with, talk to, we have similar interests, we have different interests, and that's important too. We are not one person.
Right.
Each are individuals that God created that he then brought together. And I do think all of those things are important just to begin and even to continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's key too, Tim, when you said, I like her as a person, because can you imagine being with someone that you really didn't develop that friendship? Now you guys got to do life. And life will life. Okay.
Life will life.
Yeah. Right. Now you got to go through kids, challenges, loss, all these things together. And if you can, and then you look at her like, oh, I can't stand you.
Right.
What do you do at that point? It's almost like you are alone.
Yeah. Well, and it's about, again, building that strong foundation, having, not being unequally yoked, as people, know that phrase well. But then two, I think even beyond that, what is your intentions with this relationship?
Mm.
And being clear from the start.
Yeah.
So if we just trying to kick it and hang, be clear, be upfront.
Right.
Yeah.
But if your intentions are different, then you guys have to be on the same page as far as what your expectations were. So very early on, we're like, okay, you know, we've done the dating thing. We've been with, you know, different people, this and that. And, you know, we're grown now. Yeah, we were 22, but we were grown.
Yeah.
And we both desired to be married.
Yeah.
So from the start, the intention was, I'm not trying to date you just to casually date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I will say though is that we made that declaration, and then, to be honest, because we were like, oh, we're both Christians, our families like each other, we go to the same church, this is perfect. And so we went from 0 to 100 real fast as far as like getting married and all the good stuff.
Right.
And I'm dating myself. So you remember the store Borders Books?
Yeah. I remember Borders.
So we used to go to Borders Books. Jennifer's like all like in the wedding section, looking at all the wedding books. This was like probably a few months after we started dating. And I remember we left Borders and we were sitting in the car, and I said, look, I think this is going too fast. I was like, this is going too fast. And Jennifer was like, well, do you not want to get married? I was like, that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm just saying that this is consuming too much of our time.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And when we sort of had that conversation, honestly, that's when our relationship took off.
Really?
Because we took the pressure of the expectations of has to end in marriage off the table.
Yep.
Mm.
Yes, that's the intent.
Right.
But maybe that's not what ultimately will happen. So I think we took the pressure off.
Yeah.
And that's when our relationship just took off.
Wow. So did you guys started spending time getting to know each other? I mean, I know you guys knew each other, but more, I guess, building a friendship. And like you said, because I think too, when people do start dating or, you know, or seeing someone, I don't know if they really, like you said, take that time to really get to know somebody. Cause then it's like, you're just in love.
Yeah.
You're in love with love. Right. You're in love with the idea.
Right. Well, I would say, so the short answer is yes. I mean, there was a lot of, you know, outings we would do. So, you know, dinners, concerts, movies, you know, your girl loves a movie.
Yes.
You know, music is more my thing, but you know, so that's concerts and the movies. That's kind of what we did. Yeah. But even in those moments of us spending time together, it was really both of us like understanding each other. And again, knowing what we want out of a relationship. So I'll give you a perfect example. I picked up Jennifer. We were going out. I don't even know what we did that day. Oh, we must have been going to dinner, because I asked Jennifer, okay, well, what do you want to eat? Well, I don't know. I was like, well, what do you have a taste for? Well, I don't know. And I don't like that. Like, I'm a very decisive individual, number one. And number two, I don't like when people just defer their opinions. I want to know what you think. So I told Jennifer, I said, look, let me tell you something right now. In order for this relationship to work, you're going to have to speak up. I said, because if you don't speak up, I will run all over you. Yep. And I was like, I don't want to run all over you. I want someone that I feel is my equal.
Yeah.
So, but I know myself well enough to know, if you allow me to, I will run all over you. I don't want that though, but that's not what I want.
Right.
I care what you think. I care what you think. So, you know, that's an example of how we took the time to learn each other, to understand each other, and then be honest. When you see something like, no,
right,
that ain't, that's not how this is going to go down. So
That's good.
It's
So
funny,
now,
like,
how
when
long did
you
it
grow-
take from that dating till you guys actually got married?
so we started officially dating early 97,
Yeah.
and then we got married in 2000. So like 3.5 years, I would say.
Years. Okay. Okay. And
Mhm.
now I know a lot like today, and I would say like therapy wasn't a huge conversation like
Mhm.
20 some odd years ago. You
No,
know, not at all. And now it's like a huge conversation. That's all we talk about is therapy, therapy, therapy. So what now? I don't know if you guys actually went through therapy before you even got married.
we did.
But what does that look like? And if you didn't, how are you able to get through those challenges, even though, because you have to think about it, at 22, we're still, you know, young, living life. But as you go on, life happens and you got to heal from certain things and face yourself with issues that you
Mm.
deal with. How did you guys deal with that throughout your marriage?
I think like we did do marital counseling before we got married.
We did.
We did, yes.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did do counseling before we got married. I think when I think of like one of the things that was in my mind, like when we were dating seriously, and it was like right before I graduated from college, because I took longer to finish. I took that scenic route.
Girl, look, we're gonna talk about that.
So, but I thought about the fact that like I was estranged from my biological father and had been from like a couple of years at that point.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to be anymore. Like one, his health was deteriorating at the time, but it was a relationship that was important to me. And I knew there were attributes of him. There were things about him that I saw in Tim. The same as my daddy, my stepdad, but my daddy, there were attributes of my daddy that I saw in Tim. And these were things that I noticed as we began dating. Like there are qualities in these two men that I have admiration for,
Right.
that are in this man that I want to marry. Were both work ethic and the care for his family, his brothers and sisters, his younger brothers and sisters, and his older, his grandmother, mother. Like those were things that I got to learn about him while we were dating. And so it was important for me to handle that relationship in my life, because prior to that, I was pretty easygoing. Like anybody that I called family was never estranged from me.
Right.
If I called you my friend, then, you know, whatever you need, whatever. And so that's the one relationship in my life I was like, okay, I've not lived that way. And this is it's not how Christ would have me to live, no matter what has happened. The love of Christ is greater than. So,
Right.
And then I was like, this is an important enough relationship that I need to try and work on. And so, to a very small extent, that got to happen. And Tim never got to meet him because he passed away. But the conversation that we had was one of love, and it was one where even he came up because he had heard about him through the grapevine somehow.
Of course I did.
How serious is this kind of thing? So I do think, like, when you talk about things that are going on in your life individually and having to deal with those, whether through therapy and counseling, or just facing like your own past or reservations about men or whatever, like that's something that you have to do individually.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can come from broken homes. We can come from a fatherless family. We can come from a family where there was abuse, or from any number of things. And if you don't face the reality of that, then I feel like you got kind of clouded glasses then on who you're looking at and how you're looking at them, how you're shaping your opinions of people. So I think that was important, at least for me, to deal with that. And then into our marriage, I think communication has always been huge. To be able to talk. Our styles are different.
Very.
Very different.
Very different.
Tim is like, bam, bam, bam.
I'm like,
bam,
I
bam.
go for the jugular. I'm ready.
He goes for it. He goes for it. You know, and I'm like, I grew up like kind of a heart on your sleeve kind of person.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
well, my family is like that. I love y'all, but y'all know we have a heartbeat like, you know, and so honestly, when you think about that, like, okay, that wasn't an immediate, rip. No, because I respected him. I knew that when he's like this, then it's not out of I'm trying to crush you or bring you down. It's an issue that has red flag for me, or this is a disagreement we have about something. So, okay, this is how I feel about it. I'm a slow processor, so I'm gonna take it in.
Right.
I'm not gonna say I don't ever get in my feelings, because I have, and you don't want Jenny man, but but I process it and I think about it like, okay, I get what he was trying to say. I get it. And then it's not just I get it, it's let me circle back and say, okay, that conversation we had 3 days ago, you like what? On to the next. But then he'll come right on back, like, okay, yes, all right, I see what you were talking about, but you know what? I don't think this is true about this. And and so I don't think we leave things open and just hanging.
Right.
I think that we talk it through, whether it's in the moment. People want to call, I don't know what people call perfect. I'm like, there are no perfect relationships. There is no marriage, but we argue, we fight, and it's okay. What was this about? What are we disagreeing about? How do we come back together? There's a way to tell somebody the absolute truth in love. There's a way to receive the truth, even when you don't want to hear it, and know that, okay, this is for my betterment. This is for our betterment.
Right.
Okay. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
So Tim, how? Because I know, I know you, and I know you. He got like that. He's like the New Yorker.
Yes.
So, like, how does that work for you? Even in that communication style, where Jen is more of a processor, where you're like, look, I said this, I'm on to the next thing. And Jen might still be stewing over, like, okay, now I'm gonna go back, and we're gonna circle back and talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it took me a while to really appreciate that difference of style is okay. Because again, I'm very intentional and purposeful. And especially if I have a point to get across, or I want to talk about something, or like Jennifer said, if I've identified an issue, or we know that there's an issue, let me not just say if I identify one, I want to talk about it now. I want to get it out. I want to hash it out, and I want to move on. And so I will say that I didn't always appreciate the different style, but I've learned to do that. Because there is wisdom in being discerning,
right?
And giving yourself time to think about things. Like I like to move fast. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely, I mean, it was never a struggle to the point of us, thinking we couldn't get through anything.
Right.
It was just more of really understanding, how are we going to be able to effectively communicate? Because me going, from 0 to 100 in 5 minutes and then walking away, if that's not going to be an effective way to communicate, then you need to figure out how how to do that.
Right.
And you can still express yourself in that fashion, but just know that that's not the end of the story.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, it definitely took time for me to get used to that. I mean, because honestly, my whole family is like that. Like, this is just how we are. Like, it's, I mean, it's like, that's just how we are.
They're very direct.
Very
direct. Yes.
Right. And can have like a knockdown, drag out fight and be over it in 30 minutes and then move on. That's just how,
how it's like, okay, let's go to dinner.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Literally.
Exactly. And so, yeah, Jennifer's not like that. And so I did have to not only learn how to effectively communicate, but appreciate the fact that someone can actually do something different.
Right.
And it be okay.
Right.
Like, I don't have the answers for everything.
Right. But that shows that your love and respect for her, even
Yeah.
as your partner, because, we hear a lot about like, you know, s- being as a man being the provider and the dominant one
Mhm.
in the relationship, the women's being submissive, but I
Mhm.
think sometimes people look at it as a submission being weak and a man being provider as being like a controller, but that's not
Right.
what that really means. So, okay, and I guess that's a question too. I really didn't have this question, but like submission, what does that even look like with you guys?
Do you want to answer that, Jennifer?
Look, I do understand what that means. And it doesn't mean that you don't have a voice. It does
Right.
not mean that you are not a person, that you don't have the right to voice an opinion, to follow through with what you think is okay, or any of those things. I don't look at Tim as domineering
Right.
or controlling. So I think part of submission, at least the way it is biblically intended, it has to do with, yes, the woman, but it also has to do with the man
Yes.
and how he is required to treat his wife.
Yes.
So when you look at
Yes.
submission in the context of our marriage, I don't fear being dominated or controlled,
Right.
because my opinions and my existence have value, and he
Yes.
makes sure I know that every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's more of we may disagree on something, on how to go about parenting this child, like an issue with a kid. We may disagree about it.
That's always a big one.
That it is.
Some kids.
And respectfully, like I may differ, he may differ, and he may be like, this is what I really think we need to do. Well, I'm going to submit to that. You know why? Because you're the head of our home. And while I
That's good,
disagree,
Jen.
you've heard my opinion about it, and you still think this is the way to go. Well, I'm going to defer to that. You know why? Because God has placed you as head of my home. And
That's
respectfully, I'm
good.
going to do that. And we're going to do that. And I also know that if what he's decided does not work out, I know that he is not so prideful that he's not going to come back around and say, you know what, we should have just done this, or let's go ahead and do this. That's a huge part of it. When people now hear that word submission, I'm like, they're thinking from a worldly view as far as
Yes, they are.
You're thinking of somebody with their foot on your neck. You're thinking of somebody that is we thinking dominatrix. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all thinking something completely and totally different than what God is.
Yes, I agree.
So I'm like, when you have God in the middle of it on both of our parts, then submission is easy.
Yeah,
it's simple.
That's good, Jen.
It is. And I don't need to turn around if he's made a decision as the head of our home and I disagree and be like, well, I submitted to you. Well, you know what? You should have just listened to me. You should have said, no, I'm not going to do that either.
Right.
Because he heard me out from the beginning. I don't need to wrap around. I told you so. What's that doing? I'm
glad you said that.
To pick a fight with you.
Yeah.
I don't have a desire to instigate. That's what is that going to do for me, for us? There's no point in that.
Yeah. No, I loved you said that, Jim, because I think too, that happens. Like I told you that, like that neck.
The neck be going. I know it.
And that might, Tim might hear that and you come back and he's like, I'm not even listening to that, because now you're in his ear, like, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm
like, the Bible speaks about being a nag too. I'm just saying.
It does. Okay. When you preach it, it says about being a nag. It sure does.
Just saying, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But it goes back to that beginning, right? Like, who have you placed yourself with? Did you allow God to place you, or you placed yourself?
Right.
Where are you all when you start?
Right.
Now, if y'all trying to dig through and figure this out, okay, go to the reference book. Read the word, what it says about marriage, what your role is as a wife, what his role is as a husband, and do that. Work on your relationship with God. Because I mean, I know there are people that are in the middle of it and they're like, okay, what do we do from this point? Put God in that.
I know that's
Work on your relationship with God and allow him Literally give up that control and allow God to calm those things in you that say you have to run everything.
Right.
You have to be in control of everything.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you don't. You don't. But you do have to be able to love and respect and trust the person that is supposed to be the head of your home. And you got to allow them to do their job. That's the other part.
Well, and I'll just say this too, from a culture perspective, we don't see that modeled very often.
No, we don't.
We don't. Like, I mean, like, you know, I love the sisters. I love my strong Black women. Like I do. Like I love y'all. But I think we've done a disservice to the relationship and to women in general, because they feel like they have to be strong all the time, or they have to be the one that's doing everything or controlling everything. And if you don't see it modeled in a healthy manner, then that's going to be your natural inclination to want to run and take over. And that's just not how it was designed to be.
It's not. I agree.
And so but I think unfortunately, culturally, we just don't have a lot of examples of how it should be.
Yeah. But here's a great thing. You guys are an example. You guys are an example of what we don't see. You know, unfortunately, I didn't see it. You know, I was raised by us in a single parent home. My dad wasn't around, you know, so when I got married, I was young. I had no clue. All I knew, I had a strong mother, very independent, and, you know, and she's a great mom, but I took that independence into that marriage of, I need to control everything, because if I don't, then everything's going to fall by the wayside. But, you know, I mean, obviously God wasn't in that marriage, but next time I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, you know, listen and not always feel like that I have to have control. But I think you guys are a great example of that, you know, especially our age.
Yeah.
Like,
and
our age is that example.
Yeah. It has been, you know, we are fortunate and blessed to be able to sit here 22 years later and still be together, and not only just together, but willfully together. We want to be together. Like, you know, and there is nothing. And I think that's another thing too, when you think about the intentionality of a relationship to start. When we went through marriage counseling, we both told each other divorce was not an option. It just wasn't. We gonna figure this out.
Figure it out.
Whatever it is, whatever the issues there are, we're gonna figure it out. And so because we made that declaration, when things get tough, that's not even something that we even run to or consider, because that's just, it's not an option for us.
Right.
It's not an option for us. But yeah, we are fortunate and blessed. I mean, we've seen, you know, friends of ours get married, get divorced, get remarried, you know, all that. And, you know, I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
That I found a true life partner.
Yeah.
In every aspect. And I can share anything with her. And she can share anything with me. And, you know, no matter what it is, you know, no matter what it is.
Yes.
It's the truth. And I think that has been just a blessing.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it, you know, the marriage is supposed to be an example of Christ's unconditional love for us, acted out in the partnership of marriage.
Right.
And, you know, that is what we strive to do. Like, again, no matter whatever the situation, whatever the issue, you know, there's nothing that is going to make me stop loving her.
That's good.
Nothing.
That's good.
And I feel the same way.
And I mean it.
Yes.
Nothing.
Like, we're gonna have
Yeah. No. But you know what? I mean, when you think of marriage, like I feel like that's what you should think about. I want to be able to laugh with you. I want to be able to cry with you. I want to be able to fight with you. I want to be able to make up with you. I want all of those things because that's what a relationship is.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're not looking for a relationship, then what you talking about getting married for?
Exactly. Well, that's good.
You know, you want a pretty dress, get yourself a pretty dress. They make beautiful white dresses out there.
And take some photos.
Lovely. You want to have a trophy on your arm, find somebody that wants to be a trophy and that's it, you know. And, you know, it's just a challenge. I'm like, the relationship is just, I'm so thankful to God for it. I really am, because it's bettered me. You know what I mean? It's helped me to be stronger than I think I would have been on my own. It's helped me to think of things in a different way. So he talks about me and compassion and him getting that from him. I have learned, like, okay, efficiency is important. Timeliness is important. I'm still working on that part.
It's been a struggle, Didi.
The timeliness part is my struggle. Yes, it is. But I mean, but to be able to see that, for my children to be able to see a man that cares so much about his family, but also provides for his family, that respects his wife, their mother, that honors her in what he says and does, that honors his word, his commitments. I mean, those are all amazing examples, not just to the kids, but to me too.
Yes.
You know, his dedication, his focus on tackling problems, whether at work or in the kids' lives or in my, like he is. I know that if I am trying to work through something, well, this is the sounding board I want to bounce ideas off of, that I want to know, like, okay, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this? You know, he told me when like he said, like, at some point, you're going to have an opinion. You're going to need to speak up.
Yeah.
You know, and he even told me once, he was like, you know what? You know, I get it. You're like, you say you don't care. You just nonchalant about it all. But at some point, you're going to have an opinion, and I don't know if I'm going to like it.
Exactly.
You know, you're going to all of a sudden come out the blue. But you know what? And he's managed that too. Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, now you're just talking too much. Like, that's enough. Okay. I need you to be. No. And he's encouraged that in me. And for any woman that is out there that looks like, oh no, I can't do her. I can't be submissive. I can't be stay at home. I can't be. Don't think that Jenny then lost Jenny. You know, it may be Jennifer, but Jenny is still there. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Everything that I do is a choice.
Yes.
It truly is. And I choose what I do. I choose that I'm going to submit to the head of my household.
Yeah. Yeah.
I choose that, okay, I'm gonna stay at home or I'm gonna work, you know, and he's provided that luxury or that comfort for me to make that decision, because I understand some people don't have that opportunity.
Right.
But it was never you gonna do, you need to, it was never that.
Right.
Conversations and communication are critical.
Yeah.
And if you can't have them, you don't have them, then figure out why. Work through the why of it. Because I don't know how you continue if you don't.
Yeah.
You have to be able to talk it through. I have to be able to say, okay, this is my heart. I'm just going to open it all up.
Right.
All up. And if you still holding pieces back, you got to figure out why. It might just be you. It may be something that you need to work on personally to figure out why. Or it might be, maybe this isn't the person that you should be sharing everything with. We got to take those looks before we leap.
I mean, yeah. I mean, everything that Jennifer just said and everything that we've talked about, it has to come from a place of two parties willing to do the work and willing to be intentional in the relationship. Right. Otherwise, everything that we just said, it ain't going to work.
It's not. You're right. You're right. You're right.
It's not going to work. So at the core of who we are as individuals, if we don't at least come to the table with a shared willingness to make it work and a shared willingness to communicate and be each other's partner in every sense of the word, it's not going to work, because you're going to always find differences that you can harp on. You're gonna always find flaws in someone else that you can be like poke holes at and point at.
Right.
But if that's your intent, then again, like, then this isn't for you, because you're supposed to be each other's helpmate to support, uplift, and love in spite of those deficiencies, those flaws, because we all have them.
We all have them. That's right. And I want to and I do want to talk about, I'll turn a little bit about love languages and also intimacy.
Okay.
The importance of, I'll start with intimacy, the importance of keeping that intimacy within a marriage. Because I hear couples all the time, and I know I harp on the women all the time just because I am a woman, I'm not a man, but like a woman, well, he didn't paint my house, so he not getting none tonight. They kind of weaponize it instead of, I guess, talking about it. So what is the importance of keeping that intimacy, and not using it as a weapon within a marriage?
That's good. I mean, fortunately, we've never done that.
I know.
That's never been an issue. So that's been good. But no, for me, I think I am I'm just gonna say this because we are grown. I'm a sensual person. I just am, so I like
as the child comes
the things that married couples do, and so I think over the years we've always reserved time for ourselves. So even through, and it's hard to, like, as when you got the kids and they're young and all that kind of stuff, being intentional about date nights, and not even doing something elaborate all the time, but just finding those moments where we could just be with one another, even if we just holding one another, just like, cause I'm a touchy person. Like that's
your number one love language?
For me, it's that. And I would say also respect is a big thing for me too.
Okay.
So like I have to know and feel confident in her respecting me.
Okay.
But yeah, that sensual touch for me is like, I'm always like, I mean, that's just me.
Right.
So
now, and I would say, like,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jen.
No, I was going to say, like, touch is not necessarily me. I don't mind it at all, but it's not. But words of affirmation are. Like that encouragement, and he gives it to me all the time. And there are times where he may even have to force me to take words of affirmation and receive them. Like receive the compliment, receive this, receive that. Don't second guess it. But again, that's a me problem. That's a me issue that he is helping me with, because now it's an R thing. You know what I mean? But it's like, okay, but that's how I'm like, okay, I appreciate that. Like, you don't have to say it. You don't do it because you're obligated to, but you notice something and you notice me and you bring it up and you encourage me with it. So that's
and that's good, because now, do you guys know what the 5 love languages are? I'm sure are you familiar with those?
I don't know them all off the top of my head.
It's words of affirmation, touch, gifts, quality time, and acts of service.
Acts of service.
Yes. Yeah. So
physical touch is still number one.
It's not like Tim's. So it sounds like yours is physical touch and Jen's is words of affirmation.
Yep.
And what it sounds like to me is that you all have figured out what each other's love language is, because I think a lot of times, like mine is words of affirmation and acts of service. So sometimes I will give someone what my love language is, instead of inquiring what theirs is and giving them what they need, So, but it sounds like you guys have figured that out and know kind of what to give each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I yes.
But I think it is something that took time, though.
Right, yes. Right.
So I do think that there is some of that. I think also that's another place where communication comes in. it's not like I'm like, oh, that's not my love language. Don't give that to me, or don't do that for me. It's more of, I'm going to show you, or I'm going to guide you. I'm not going to criticize what you are giving me, because I still appreciate that. That's just how I am. Like, right. I appreciate that. I appreciate touch. Yes, I do. But it's, it's a back and forth of it. And I think that he is really good about, like, when he does something, he sees what he wants to know what the reaction is.
Yes.
He wants to know what's happening. And it's like, okay. And he's learning me in that. He's understanding me and growing and understanding who I am and what I need. I think that's important on both sides.
Yeah. Okay, so last question. So thinking back over the 22 years, what advice would you give to newlyweds?
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. First of all, I feel like, and maybe it's the environment we live in here, I've met a lot of people, well, not just here. Over the years, I've met people that don't care for their in-laws, that go into marriage with a preconceived notion. So for newlyweds, I would say that while you did marry your husband, you also married into a family.
Yes.
So whatever negative feelings you have about that, you're going to have to set those at the Father's feet too, and try to navigate through those. You don't need to become a wedge, because you're now adding a wedge into your marriage. Right. You don't need to try and become a wedge between him and his mother or him and his family. That you're going to create a problem for yourself. So I would say make sure that you understand that this is where this man came from. Yes, leave and cleave is a thing. It is. But he's still a family. He's still a son or a brother, or he's still all of those things.
Yeah.
You married all of those things.
Right. And you married him because you obviously like his qualities, and his qualities had to come from somewhere.
They came from somewhere. Yes.
Yeah.
And I would also say truly understand the concept of submission and honoring your husband. At least from a female standpoint, understand what that means. Right. That it does not have to lessen you or cheapen you or cause you to disappear. But put God first. And in those moments that you feel are especially difficult, let God have them. Ask God to soften your heart about it, or to give discernment to your husband, or pray for your husband.
Yeah.
Do it every day, as often as you can. Whenever he comes in your mind with a thought of love or a thought of anger or frustration, pray for him. Pray for him, because the Lord has placed a heavy weight on his shoulders as your new husband, leader of your home. Do these things and establish them before the babies come, if they haven't come there yet.
Right.
Get that foundation with y'all solid.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I'd add to that is don't confuse fantasy with reality. Because when you do, it doesn't allow you to see your mate for who that person is. Because you're still thinking about what was idyllic, what you had in your head, what it was supposed to be like, and all these things. And each one of us come into a relationship as individuals with our strengths, our weaknesses, our baggage, our hurts, our healing, all of those things. And none of that is fantasy.
Tim, that was great, Tim. That's real.
That's real. So if your focus has this sort of, perfect or idyllic image of what marriage is supposed to be, and that's the lens through you view your mate, then I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle.
Good. That's good.
So
because they will never measure up.
Nope. So
so you know what I see with you guys? I see books. I see like really, truly. I mean, you guys could really be example for newlyweds, for singles who are wanting to be married, for newlyweds who are starting out, even for couples who have been married for a while and maybe struggling,
Yeah.
marriage, don't know what to do. No, I truly think you guys have I want to say a ministry, because there are people that can model after you all. I mean, you guys have 3 children that are awesome kids, I mean, nothing is perfect. I mean, it's never going to
No,
be
Right.
no.
but you guys are living it and continue to live it. And not only living it, but you actually not only just love each other, you like each other. Like you said, I thought that was key to him.
Yeah.
I like her and I want to spend time with her.
Right.
There are people that their marriages, they may love each other, but really don't even feel like being around each other, for whatever reason. Yeah.
Whatever reason. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, you know what? I received that actually.
I receive it as well.
Yes.
I will receive that.
Like really, yeah, truly see that. I say all the time. I say, they're one of my favorite couples because, for one, like I said, I know you guys, and Tim, as a man, I know that you love Jen, and you're not out here just wilding, acting crazy.
Right.
Out in these streets.
Right. Right, out of these streets acting a fool. Where and unfortunately, as Black men, that's not always the perception.
Yeah.
And that's not always what's shown.
Well, yeah. Well, and to know too, like, I mean, not to even get too deep into this, but when you become married, you're not blind. And you don't somehow become unattracted to other people.
Right. I mean,
like so opportunities have come up, but I respect and love my wife too much to entertain anything that would tarnish or diminish this relationship.
Yeah, that's good.
But again, you have it's intentionality. It's not because people aren't weak. It's not because people can't be tempted or have opportunities to do whatever.
Right.
But it was like, what is your intention?
Yeah.
What is your intention?
And that goes both ways in terms of the temptation, but also in terms of, on the flip side, is, do I trust you? Do I trust you? You're not gonna go off to work or travel for work or be here, and I'm second guessing you every minute of the day. Well, who you with? What'd you do?
That's so toxic.
That is so toxic.
Yeah, and that would not work for me.
And don't I know it? Like, no.
Like, why are you sweating me? Why are you sweating me?
That would stress me out. I don't want to sit around
who wants to live like that?
What you're going to do?
Who wants to live like that?
No. That goes back to me to, like, okay, do you trust God and who he's brought together? Exactly. You trust that if there is something going on, God would literally bring it to you?
Girl, honey, he will tell you.
He will tell you. I do not need to worry about that.
Yeah.
I trust my husband.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure he knows that.
Goes to, like you said, you have to have God in that relationship because you got to bear the fruits of the Spirit. And one of them is self-control. Like, you have
yes.
Yeah. It's a must because, like you said, Tim, you're not like you get married, okay, but you don't see. And out here, I mean, there are everywhere is butts and tits everywhere. Everywhere. So to say that you don't see that, I mean, and us as women, men out here, I mean, 6 packs, abs everywhere. So, but that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's important to keep God, in that relationship. And that,
Absolutely.
I think, it sustains it. So Tim and Jen, thank you so much for this. I think this is just going to be great nuggets for everyone that is watching and who is desiring to have a better marriage, who is desiring to be married, or who just got married and desiring to have their marriage for lifetime and not just for, a little while. So any last words you guys want to say before we end it?
No, I mean, thank you for having us. I anytime I have the opportunity to talk about our relationship and how God has sustained it, that's easy for me. That's
Yeah.
easy for me. The journey hasn't always been easy, but to be able to talk about it and reflect, that's easy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being on Be the Voice podcast. And I know it's just really going to be a blessing for many, many people. So,
All
again,
right.
being on, and I will talk to you all later.
All right, dude.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Be the Voice podcast. I know it was a blessing, and I know it's just going to be just touch so many couples, singles, whoever is watching. So stay tuned for next week. So we went through being single, and then it was being newlyweds and married for over 20 years. Now, next week, we're kind of going to go back a little bit, but okay. And it's like, I heard all of that. But how do I even get to dating? So we're going to meet a couple that's just dating. You know, how do I even start that process? So we're going to talk to them about that journey, how they're doing, and how they are going to take that, you know, or even the thoughts of going to the next level. So stay tuned for next week. We're going to have another amazing episode. February has just been so great. We've been talking about relationship status. So you guys stay tuned. We got one more next week, and I will catch you then. You guys have a great day.